Might Ford be the first global auto company to partner with Tesla to license Tesla's full self-driving technology? Well, this week, Ford CEO Jim Farley said, quote, "We know the FSD system, we know the Waymo system. I think we'll make a good decision, but I think we're a lot closer to that partnering decision at Ford," unquote. Farley also openly admitted they're still behind Tesla in EV production and they had lessons to learn in this sector. He's banking on their new models coming out in the next 2 years, saying that they needed to focus on making them profitable before scaling them up, and they had revamped their supply chain to do this. So a lot of new information coming from Ford CEO. I've got Larry Goldberg here with us. Will teach us a little bit more of what he meant. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thanks, Herbert. Great to be here.
The first one, this first little clip is very exciting. It's very interesting. It's 2 minutes long, but listen to the last several sentences he says, and you decide. You tell me if are we overreading into it? Are we not overreading to it? It's curious to see directly from Ford CEO himself. Let's listen to what he's saying here.
I think we're at that point where we have to decide, look, level 3 is around the corner. Blue Cruise is now over 300 million miles. Customers are still paying for it. We did drop the price, by the way, so it is getting commoditized to some extent, but it is still a great opportunity. But the capability in the company is growing. All those Argo people that came with Ford, they are developing a really nice level 2, level 3 system that we think will be among the best in its execution. We may not be the first, we may not grab all the headlines, but look at Blue Cruise. Blue Cruise is continuing to win all the consumer awards for the best operating system. On level 2 plus is around the corner. Level 3 we think is a huge unlock on highway miles, eyes off. I think we're in good shape with our internal capabilities, but look, we're not so Pollyannish about our own capability that we're not going to look at other people's system or not believe that level 4 personal autonomy is going to be interesting at some point. They're making a lot of progress over there in level 4. And it is time for us, not just in the US, but globally, to start looking at, and that's why we made some of the announcements we did today, because we need a strong strategy team to decide, do we partner? Do we continue to ride our own team into this level 4 personal autonomy? And I think you're going to find, just like our move on Argo, we'll be thoughtful and practical. We won't get in love with the size of the market. We'll make a practical decision. And I think we'll be well positioned. I'm very confident in Sammy and Doug and their technical prowess. They know the FSD system. They know what's out there. They know the Waymo system as it gets democratized for level 4, individual level 4. And so I think we'll make a good decision. But I think, Adam, we're a lot closer to that partnering decision at Ford.
Go ahead.
That's a lot of words. That's a lot of words. But I'll tell you, those words sound to me like he's already talking to Tesla. And Tesla, you know, when Elon was asked about partnering, he made it very clear. He said, look, partnering in FSD is very difficult. We're not going to do it with a small company. We're going to do it with a big company because there's a lot to it. It's not just, you know, the software. It's the entire vehicle. So when you think about what it takes to integrate FSD into the car, it's a lot more than software. And so when you hear Farley talking like that, and you hear Elon talking like that, you know these guys have been talking to each other. Doesn't mean they're going to sign on the dotted line, either Tesla or Ford, but it does mean they're considering very seriously what is involved, and that is step 1. So they've taken step 1. Look, it's a natural partnership. It's an absolutely natural partnership. And by the way, if Farley has got a good team, that's like half the struggle right there. I mean, Elon's made it clear, we're not going to deal with somebody who doesn't have a good team. So I think it's the right combination. Mm-hmm. I think it's the right level of thinking. Farley is, you know, by far away the most mature leader of a non-EV company, of And Ford is a company that's going to survive. It's going to survive because it's family owned, and they've done it before. They'll do it again. So I'm excited. I'm ready for this. I'll be at the signing ceremony.
I know you will. You don't have a problem traveling. I think you made a very good point, Larry. So in order for a automaker to partner with Tesla, they've made it clear that we need you to be committed, right? Multiple millions of cars, but also committed to actually make this thing happen, because it's not an easy, oh, let me just download your software and we're good to go. There's a lot of work. And Ford actually has their team. And by the way, this week, they announced a lot of changes to the executive team. So first, there's the CFO, Lawler. He left, but he didn't leave. He's now changed his focus. Get this: strategy, partnerships, alliances, and corporate development. And then they added responsibilities for a pair of new executives, where they're now connecting again the electric vehicle division with the internal combustion business under one leader. So 3 years ago, they split them apart. They're bringing them back in again. And they've moved people up into this. Marin Gaja was the CEO of the EV division, is now going to become the chief strategy officer. So like you say, maybe, and then of course they were, he was talking how proud he is with what they've accomplished with their autonomy, because they bought the company called Argo. But yeah, if you listen to the words he said, right, it sure sounds like that they're about to make that decision, and that he brought up, we know the level 4 personal autonomy, we're watching them, we know the FSD system. And then he goes, and we know the Waymo system. So he's like, why did he say FSD first? Yeah.
I don't think that's important, but what he did say that is very important is that he's got two guys on he's got two leaders. He's got a leadership team. They're from Argo. They're really, really, skilled. They know what it's going to take, and they know what licensing this thing is going to involve. This is the mirror image of what Elon said. So I would be very surprised if they're not already talking. But I could be wrong. I mean, sure. I've been wrong in the past. I'll be wrong in the future. My money is on the partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I've been saying before too, that if you think about it, which automaker are most likely to partner with Tesla, there's a lot of reasons why, right? I'm not saying I know, but one small reason could be that if it's a family-owned company, they have a incentive to want to keep the company alive forever. And they can see that this could actually disrupt them and completely kill Ford if they don't get into autonomy. Versus, the other car companies, they've got a CEO who's only there for 3 years and then they're gone. Get my package, I'm gone. They're not as committed to making sure this company survives for generations to come. So,
yeah. I mean, it's interesting that Volkswagen have taken this Rivian path. I think it's quite an intelligent path for them in terms of shutting down this operation they have in Germany, this software operation that they screwed up in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a terrible idea that was. So it's not going to be Volkswagen. So I think this just makes a whole lot of sense. And by the way, it's going to leave, General Motors in a terrible situation. Terrible situation.
Let's listen to some more with Jim Farley. He was also interviewed at Bloomberg. Let's hear what he said about the electric vehicle and where they're standing right now. And they're struggling.
I want to ask about the expected drop in vehicle prices. Is that something that is across the board that we're seeing in the industry, or is that specific to what you're seeing at Ford?
No, I think it's across the industry. We're seeing it all around the world. After COVID, all vehicle prices really went up, but with the acceleration of EVs, as well as inventories normalizing for customers and dealers, we're seeing the prices come down across the globe. And affordability is a big concern for customers.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you, of course, have some new model launches that will be coming up in the years to come. But in the meantime, it's a matter of managing through this interim period. And during this interim period, there are a lot of question marks over tariffs. The tariffs that President Trump had planned to impose on Mexico and Canada have been pushed out by a month. How does the company plan to take advantage of this 4-week delay that was announced earlier this week? Will you be stockpiling inventory, for instance, to get ahead of that?
Well, I think Ford is among the best industrial companies at scrambling. We have the largest U.S. footprint of any car company. You can imagine we're increasing our component supplies, both at the company and our suppliers, and we're adjusting both our Mexico as well as our U.S. plants to make sure nothing crosses the border. I think longer term is the bigger concern. These kind of tariffs, especially in these two countries, are very significant, and if they persist beyond months, we could see billions and billions of dollars of pressure on the industry, lost jobs, lots of impacts to communities and our ecosystem in the industry. And that's what we're talking to the administration about and congressional leaders.
So what kind of communications have you had specifically with the White House officials about either tamping down some of these potential tariffs or, assuming that Trump does go through with them, how, if at all, the auto industry either could be compensated or in some way have that impact mitigated?
Well, actually, we spoke as an industry, Mary, myself, John Elkin from Stellantis. We all kind of said the same thing, which is 4 years ago, we committed to the USMCA tariff requirements, and all companies have done their job to make sure our vehicle and components are USMCA compliant, and we asked for those to be exempt because it's a trade agreement that we all agreed to actually with the Trump administration. We think that that's only fair. Look, right now, this tariff as proposed is a windfall for South Korean and Japanese companies who can import millions and millions of vehicles without these tariffs. Meanwhile, we have USMCA compliant vehicles and components that are susceptible to this, which will have all this devastating impact. So what we're asking for is a reasoned policy around tariff that's not just these two countries, and we understand the pressures on the border and illegal drugs, but it's more comprehensive. We also have to work through CO2 policy as well as tax policy with the IRA.
So what
do you think? What are you saying about the potential tariff impact to Ford?
Well, look, I absolutely sympathize with the U.S. Car manufacturers. They had an MCA 8 years ago now. That MCA was a hard-fought agreement, and now it's shifting on them, and it's shifting on them not for what they've done and not for what the car industry has done, but it's shifting on them because of other aspects. So it makes a lot of sense that they get some relief on tariffs. So I absolutely sympathize with them. They've done what was required of them. So we'll see. I mean, Trump is a tough negotiator, and he really, really makes it uncomfortable for the other guy. So, maybe that's what it's all about. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think Ford's going to be impacted significantly, but the others will be even worse. He talked about how South Korea, Japan won't be impacted by this, but these guys, they're like, I think a third of their cars are made in Mexico, so it's significant cost.
And the Mustang
production, supply chain.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. And even Tesla have got a fairly significant supply from Mexico. I would say a very significant percentage, maybe 20%, 25% of their components come from Mexico. So all the car companies are going to be hit.
Let's listen into what else he said.
What is your strategy then to navigate this? I mean, this isn't going away, whether it's 25 or something less. This specter is certainly a big part of the president's playbook to address the issues that he wants to resolve here. You can't just up and move a factory overnight, Jim. So what exactly are you strategizing now with your team to make sure that not only you're producing the cars you need to produce, but you're producing them at a cost that's reasonable to you and, more importantly, reasonable to the customer?
Well, first of all, Ford is in a very fortunate situation. We decided many years ago to have an outsized footprint in the U.S. So our manufacturing footprint, the number of vehicles that we make, 80% of our vehicles sold in the U.S. are made here. All of our transmissions, most of our engines. So we have a really big advantage compared to our competitors. But there are optionality that we can make. And look, we've localized a lot of battery plants and EV production in Tennessee and Kentucky because the production tax credit is there. So we're really asking the administration, please preserve the production tax credit. Let's have a reasoned tariff approach. And most of all, let's have reasonable CO2 targets that are in line with what customers are actually buying.
Do you have spare capacity inside the U.S. right now of significance?
No. No, we are maxed out in the U.S. As I said, we're the largest U.S. producer. We export more cars. A lot of people don't realize that Ford exports a lot of cars outside the U.S. We don't have a lot of excess capacity. A little bit, and we're taking advantage of that, and that's why we're building new capacity in Ohio and Tennessee and Kentucky for batteries and these new EVs that will be coming out in the next couple of years. That's why we're investing in the U.S.
Tariffs are clearly on everyone's mind, and that's something your CFO has made in her statement as well. And the guidance that you offer does not include the potential impact of policy changes by the White House. Once we do get the actual tariffs announced and imposed, how quickly can Ford come out with some specifics, quantify the impact, and provide a new forecast? Is that something that you intend to do?
Of course. I mean, we're always transparent. I will be able to say, though, in our guidance, we can handle a couple weeks of tariffs. If it goes beyond that, obviously, it will be billions and billions of incremental, profit headwinds for the company. So, I think the most important thing is having a productive discussion with the D.C. leaders, the Trump administration, congressional leaders, about what this could do to our industry, what it means for U.S. jobs. And, they ran on a campaign of making the auto industry stronger. And that's what we expect out of them as policymakers. We have a lot of policy decisions to make in the coming year. As I said, CO2, tax policy, and we believe that this administration, congressional leaders, are going to back the U.S. industry, companies like Ford that have doubled down on the U.S.
Right. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about your EV business as well. The EV strategy clearly in overhaul mode. Your more affordable models that go further on a single charge won't really be available for 2 years. And Ford is kind of unusual in that you do break out your EV profits in your financial reports. When will you have visibility on those affordable models that go further on a single charge in terms of being able to really turn around that business?
Well, look, we made the decision. We've been number 3 to Tesla in the U.S. EV sales for 3 years now. We've been number 2 for 3 years, and we're also number 3 on hybrid. So we know a lot about these customers. We decided a couple years ago, based on what we heard from customers, that we really needed to redo our EV lineup. So we made that decision a couple years ago. We canceled a couple models. Those vehicles are in development now. We would rather grow profitably than grow. And that's what we're deciding on. So this next couple of years, we're number 2 to Tesla, a long way below them, but we scaled to 100,000 unit plus for a couple of years now. We want to wait until those new vehicles come out in a couple of years, as you said, that will really transform our Model E profits. They're designed differently. They're going to be manufactured different. They have a different supply chain. We've really learned a lot from Tesla, from the Chinese, from a lot of people on how differently we need to design these EVs to be profitable.
So Ford is committed to a long-term EV strategy then?
Absolutely.
What about...
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I actually kind of like him, because unlike GM, he seems to at least be telling somewhat closer to the truth. We're far behind Tesla. Okay.
He's humble. He's straight out. He's straight up. He's always followed through on his commitments. It's a tough gig. It's an awfully tough gig, taking a 100-year-old company with a 100-year-old approach and turning the corner. I mean, it seems to me that, look, they came out with what was clearly the second best lineup of EV cars made in the United States. Not good enough by far, but dramatically better than either Stellantis or General Motors. I can hardly get that name out of my mouth. I mean, they are such a disaster, such a disaster. But, they're a long way from where they need to be. And he's honest about it. He's just straight up about it. So there is so much they can do to achieve breakthrough in working with Tesla. I don't understand why they wouldn't do that. So hopefully the next round is going to be a better set of cars or vehicles.
Are you one that believes that, Ford, I just mentioned already that they're reorganizing yet again. They split out the EV business. Now they're bringing back executives, but they also had a Skunk Works project. So not only do you have these two more affordable cars that they're talking about releasing in 2 years, electric vehicles, but also there's this Skunk Works project. Do you think that is associated with Tesla at all, or not likely?
No. I mean, do I think? I have no idea. I have no idea. It's just we would have heard a little bit more about it if they were really working with Tesla in that Skunk Works. I mean, without working on a 48-volt system, without working on an integrated signaling system, getting away from CAN bus, without doing that, it's going to be awfully difficult for them to be competitive. Time will tell. Time will tell. It's going to be a tough couple of years in the next 2 or 3 years before things turn around. We'll see.
Okay. And then last question for you, Larry. If there is a partnership for licensing and you had a choice of which EV company out there, who would you choose? Where would Ford land on that list?
Wait a minute. Which way are we talking about? For Tesla to partner with a third party?
Tesla to choose which automaker that they will select to be their partner for licensing.
In
FSD.
the United States, I would choose Ford, no question about it. In Europe, that's a tougher question. There's nobody who's achieving scale in Europe that I see Tesla partnering with. I mean, Volkswagen have obviously achieved some scale simply because they're selling cars to their corporate customers who are kind of locked into them. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't think there's a partnership there for Tesla. Now, they've partnered before with Daimler. That is to say, Mercedes. It's possible. BMW, they have their own kinky business. I don't know. I don't see partners in Europe. Stellantis, that would make sense, but Stellantis are in dire trouble anyway. I don't know what Europe's going to do. I don't know what's going to happen in Europe. I really don't. I think
Hyundai.
Now, when you talk about Hyundai, yeah, I think so. Hyundai would have done well to have partnered a year or two ago. They would have been so much further ahead today. So we'll see. I mean, Hyundai.
The Chinese.
In China, they're not going to partner with Tesla. They're using Tesla as a stalking horse. They're using Tesla as pressing the rest to lead. So I don't doubt there's going to be a partnership. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's going to be a partnership. I thought there would be a year ago. Now, they've done a lot of work on FSD. They've disconnected China from the rest of the world in so many respects. It's hard to see China, reconnecting with the rest of the world at this point.
Interesting. Okay. And the reason I phrased my question this way is because I guess I am different in that way I think of it. I've been saying that I actually think that it's the opposite of what most people are saying, that instead of Tesla begging, please, automaker, please make a decision and partner with us. We'd love to partner with you. I think it's the opposite at this point. There's actually lots of automakers asking to partner to get the license FSD, but it's Tesla deciding, I will only do it if you have the commitment. I'll only do it if you've got at least 1 million cars. They've got a lot of concerns. And so they're the ones picking and choosing who they want to do with, want to see the partner step up, commit to it, and then that's who we'll do it with. So that's why I think it's almost like a
the
Tesla
Chinese
choice.
the Chinese are really going to only partner if the Chinese government give them the nod.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I'm being a little bit more reserved about this opportunity. I just don't see the Chinese government giving car manufacturers the nod to partner with Tesla at this point.
Wonderful. Thank you, Larry. Follow Larry on his X account at Tesla Larry. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.